Hey, welcome to Point to Point channel. As part of Java 8 series, today we'll discuss about optional class. So prior to Java 8, we used to encounter null pointer exception n number of times, right? So we used to keep, null checks everywhere. If so and so object reference is not null, then do so and so, else do so and so, or something like that, right? So, to address this problem, Java 8 team, they just introduced this optional class, which is a final class. Okay. So now let's try to understand what is optional. Okay. Let's go through the optional API once and see what and all are available over there. Okay. Yeah, so if you see, this is the official optional API. Okay, here if you see, this is a final class. Here you can see this is a final class, and you can read this particular definition. Okay, so you can see optional is a container that may or may not have a valid value. Okay, or that may or may not contain a non-null value or valid value, right? So you can imagine optional as a container, or it's kind of a box, or it's kind of a wrapper. Internally, it may or may not have a valid value. So there are only two possibilities: either that container can have a null or a valid value. That's it. Okay, so you can imagine something like this. Okay, so let me show you. So you can imagine something like this. See, this is a box, left side box. Okay, it has possibility number one is it can have a null. Okay, the right side box, the second possibility is the same box, it can have a some valid value. So just for example, the valid value is test or something like that. Okay, so now if you see, they just introduced three static methods. The first one is empty, off, and off nullable. Okay, so with the help of these three static methods, we can create a optional object. Okay, so yeah, let's try to create optional object. Yeah, so here if you see, I mean, I just created, sometime before. Here if you see optional dot empty. Okay, this is empty optional. I'm just trying to print. Okay, so let me run this. See, it has printed optional.empty, right? So how it has printed optional.empty in the sense, okay, so basically if you see empty, okay, so here it will invoke this is a static object. Here if you see, we are just creating optional with the new operator. See here, I mean, we don't have any input, right? So it's a kind of a brand new empty optional, okay, which does not have any value. Okay, so now how it has printed optional.empty in the sense, obviously when I print that reference, it will invoke this toString override method, right? Here if you see, since in our case value is null, it will print this one optional.empty. So by that way you can see this one optional.empty, right? So I hope it is clear. Okay, so now okay, so now what happens? Okay, if you try to if you want to fetch the value from that container from the optional, so we need to use a get method. Okay, so yeah, so get method, right? So here let me run this. Okay, of course, in our case this is an empty optional, we don't have any value, we know that, but intentionally I'm trying to invoke this get method. Let's see what happens. Okay, so here if you see, we have got no such element exception, and no value present. Why we have got this? Okay, just to see the implementation of get method. Here you can see clearly, if the value is null, then we are throwing this no such element exception. Here we are only passing this no value present. The same thing we have got right here, no value present. So um, is there any way to to customize this particular exception? Okay, I don't want to throw this exception, I want to throw some other exception. Okay, so so for that, what we need to do? Okay, just remove this get. Okay, so what I'm doing, or else. Okay, so or else throw. Okay, in this or else throw, what I'm saying, okay, first see what it expects. Okay, or else throw. um, So here if you see, if the value is null, it is printing this no such element exception, right? So here, yeah, Here if you see, we do have one more flavor of or else throw, in which we are expecting, it is expecting a supplier, right? So here what I'm doing, obviously, I need to give a implementation to the supplier. Everybody knows, it does not take any input, basically it returns a output always. So now what I'm doing, new, say, illegal argument exception. So for example, I'm saying, okay, there is no value. Okay, so I'm just giving my own message. Okay, so there is no value. uh, so let's run once again. So now this time, instead of printing no such element exception, it will print illegal argument exception. That too, there is no value. See, you can see. So so by this way, what happens? I mean, we can customize the exception. So now you may have a doubt. Okay, how come this or else throw got invoked? So here the answer for that question is, see, this is a empty optional. Okay, this or else throw is a method of optional class itself. Now when you invoke this or else throw, okay, so here if you see, if the value is not equal to null, then it will return the value. But in our case, value is null, right? Why? Because it is empty optional, right? So obviously it will come here. Okay, it will come here and it will try to invoke the get method. So as soon as you invoke the get method, okay, so then what happens? The flow will reach to here, and it will try to invoke this particular implementation. So by that way, we have got this one. So I hope it is clear. Okay. So yeah, let's try to create the optional using the second method. Okay. Um, Optional dot off. Okay, off. So let me say test. Okay, okay, test. Okay, so this side optional. Okay. um, yeah, so I just created a optional object with using optional dot off. Okay, so now, okay, let me fetch that particular value and print that value. Okay, so for that, what you need to do? Okay, very simple, obj dot get method. Okay, so yeah, we are good. So now let me run this. So obviously we will get test. Okay, so see, I mean, see, it is currently, it is throwing the exception, right? So obviously it will not, I mean, flow will not proceed further. Okay, let me comment this. Yeah, now let me run. So now it will pen test. Yeah, so far we are good. Okay, so now we have seen one possibility. The second possibility is, it could be null also, right? So see, I'm passing null. Okay, now let's see what happens. See, see what's happening. I mean, when you pass null to this off method, immediately, I mean, it has thrown this null pointer exception. So where it has thrown null pointer exception? So at this line, see, the cursor is showing at this line, right? So now, why it has thrown the null pointer exception. So just jump into this method. Okay, here if you see, okay, again, just go here. Okay, just go here. Okay, so here if you see obj is equal to null, they are throwing explicitly null pointer exception right here. So that's why we are getting a null pointer exception. It is very clear. Okay, so now, so just forget about this fetching the values. So the moment you pass the null to this off method, okay, then and there itself it started throwing the null pointer exception. Okay, so just make sure, I mean, if you are I mean, if you are 100% sure the value is not null, then only just use that off method. Okay, now okay, now again I am changing to test. Okay, otherwise it will throw null pointer exception. Okay, um, yeah, so just a connecting point. I mean, in Java 8, to address this problem, they just introduced one more method, that is OR method. Okay, so in case if it, if it throws this null pointer exception, then in OR method you can create one more optional with some valid value or something like that. Okay, so let me copy this. Okay, so this time I will try to create of nullable. Yeah, of nullable. Okay, and let me change this reference variable obj to obj1. Okay, so yeah, let me run. So it has printed test, so we are good. Okay, so let's see what happens if I pass null here also. See, when I pass null to this off nullable, we have got again no such element exception, no value present. Why in the sense, just go here, okay, and so I just pass null, right? So if value is equal to null, then what happens? It invokes the empty method. Again, if it goes to empty method, okay, just sometime before we have already seen, right? In the case of empty optionality, it has thrown no such element exception, right? So that's why that's why we have got this no such element exception. Okay, so okay, so so by this way we can create optional object with the help of empty and off nullable. So the key takeaways here is if you are 100% sure, then only create a optional object with the help of off method. Okay, um, otherwise it will throw the null pointer exception then and there itself. Okay, otherwise if you are not sure, then just go with off nullable. Okay, so yeah, we are good so far. Okay, so let's jump into the next topic. Okay, so how do I know that? Okay, I mean, what optional really contains so that container, I would like to know whether it has a null or valid value. Is there any way? Okay, is there any supported API? Okay, so yes, we have a way, that is present method. Okay, so for example, if obj1 dot, okay, is present, okay, is present. Okay, so sop, okay, so I'm just saying, um yeah, value is available. Okay, otherwise something not available. Okay, so let me run this. Okay, so nothing, I mean, so is present method in the sense, basically if that container internally has a null or valid value. If it has null, okay, then it will print this one. So here yeah, so see, um, let me change it to this one, some valid value. Okay, something. Okay, let me rerun. So this time it will print no happily it will print this one, Rajendra. Okay, and after that it has printed this one also, value is available. Why? Because it has written true. Okay, is present, return true. Okay, so just go here and you can make sure, see, return value equal not equal to null, obviously it will return true, right? Yeah, so far we are good. Okay, the next method is, okay, in case if a container or optional has a valid value, I want to do something. So for that, is there any method? Yes, we have a method. The method name is if present. Okay, so here what I'm going to do, okay, obj1 dot if present. Okay, so basically this if present here, if you see, it expects a consumer. Okay, basically it expects a consumer. Okay, if the value is not equal to null, then it obviously the consumer has a accept method, right? So single abstract method. Okay, so here if you see, um, so what I'm doing, um, okay, so either you can print yes, or you can do anything. Okay, so what I'm doing, okay, I'm just converting to uppercase. Okay, so here if I run once again, so here if you see, I mean, it has converted to uppercase, Rajendra, right? So here what we have achieved in the sense, okay, in case if optional has a valid value, okay, then immediately it will return true. Okay, then it will immediately execute this piece whatever you are passing. Okay, so that's the beauty of this if present. Okay, so the next one here is so I would like to show the next important method, that is a filter method. Okay, so what is filter method in the sense, okay, obj1 dot, yeah, so filter. Okay, so here if you see, what is there within the filter. Okay, So here if you see, filter expects a predicate. Everyone knows what is predicate. So predicate is a functional interface. Internally it has a test method, right? So obviously it will always return a boolean value, okay, either true or false, right? So here if you see, um, you know so let me pass the implementation to this predicate, okay. So here what I'm doing, yes, okay, so something I want to do is dot starts with, okay. So so the string, if it starts with your first letter R, okay, so then obviously if it returns true, okay, if it returns true, then what happens, okay. So obviously the flow reaches here, okay. So then it will invoke this test method. Then as soon as it invokes the test method, flow reaches here, okay. Then flow tries to execute this particular piece, and obviously it will return true. Why? Because our string is Rajendra, right? So it will return true, okay. Then if it returns true, okay, so then what happens, okay, then here if you see, it will just return this. So this in the sense the same optional, in the sense optional of string, okay. So then what you need to do, okay, just use or else, okay, or else, um, or else what I'm see here, if you see, just go here, or else, okay. So if value is not equal to null, it will print value, or otherwise or. So just in the previous step it has already returned the option of string, right? So obviously we have got some valid value, right? I mean valid value in the sense I mean optional of string itself, right? That's what we have got. Why? Because filter predicate has returned a true, so and it has written a this in the sense optional of string, that is optional of Rajendra, right? So then or else, okay, let me say some default value, okay, default value, so something I'm saying, okay. So okay, so let me keep it in some SOP. Okay, so here, so obviously it will print right now, I mean Rajendra, right? So here if you see, it has printed Rajendra. So why it has printed Rajendra, in the sense, I mean our predicate condition, I mean returned a true. Okay, obviously it returned true. Then it will went to or else method. So here value is not equal to null, and so if it is not equal to null, then it will print value. So that is not, by that way it has printed Rajendra, right? Okay. The next I will show you the next important method, that is map method. Okay. So here. Okay, let me change to map. Okay, map. So in the map, map expects a function. Okay, so function is also again a functional interface. In I mean it has internally apply method, right? So here, if you see, um, obviously, if our optional has a valid value, the flow reaches to this else condition, okay, and by that way it will invoke this apply method, okay. So now what I'm going to do, okay, let me, okay, okay. So in the map method, I'm just taking the input, and okay, I'm trying to calculate the length, okay. So in the length, okay, okay, so if I run this, okay, then what happens, it will simply calculate the length of the our string, that is Rajendra, and it will print. Okay, see, it has printed 8, right? So how it has printed 8, in the sense, okay, so just go here in the map, okay. So as I said just sometime before, flow reaches here and it will invoke this apply method, okay. So in the apply method, what it returns, see here, this is important, optional dot of nullable, okay, of nullable, and here what we will pass to this of nullable, that value 8, right? So then you will have a optional of integer, okay. So now you will invoke this or else method on top of that optional of integer, okay. So then if you see, already you have a valid value 8, right? So then this value is not equal to null true, so obviously it will consider value, so by that way it will print 8, okay. I hope it has, I mean, um, mean is clear. Okay, so yeah, we are good. Okay, so the next okay, so I just want to show you, some poses here. Okay, I have two sets of poses. Okay, let me show you the first set. Okay, so here if you see, yeah, so the first set is I have a some address poso, okay, in which I have three fields. Okay, so here if you see, street value, city, phone number, pin code or something like that. Okay, so now if you see the next one, yeah, I have one more poso, Aadhaar card. Okay, so here also if you see, I mean I have some number. Okay, internally I'm just referring to the same address whatever I have shown just now. Okay, so and after that, I have some person pojo. Okay, in the person pojo, I have this age, salary, and again I'm referring to this Aadhaar card. Okay, so basically person is referring to Aadhaar card is referring to address. Okay, now I have one more set. Okay, in which again the three more pojos. Okay, of course this address is a common pojo in those two sets. Okay, so now this time address card opt. Okay, address card opt here also again this set also as a number. Okay, and it is also referring to address. Okay, so this time if I want to get a address, okay, I have written this particular method. Okay, here if you see this particular method here, I'm trying to create a optional. Okay, optional dot of nullable. I mean this particular address. Okay, so so whenever you try to invoke this particular method, you will get a optional of address. Okay, so similarly, yeah, similarly, I do have one more pozo, second set. Okay, person opt. Okay, here also I'm just referring to this Aadhaar card opt. Okay, I have one more method. Okay, this time whenever I'm expecting a Aadhaar card opt. Okay, it's I'm just creating a optional dot of nullable. Okay, it will return optional of Aadhaar card opt. Okay, so it is a recommended practice to create a one more separate get method. Okay, whenever you want to you want to have a object reference of this particular variable. Okay, so do not create something like this. Okay, do not create optional of. Okay, so something like this. Okay, so don't do something like this. Okay, so why? Because okay, so optional is not a serializable. Okay, so that's why if you include something like straight away to your class fields, okay, it will not serialize. So for that you need to follow some other Jackson library. So that's why, just to avoid that particular problem, okay, so just to follow a separate get method. Okay, in which just create a separate optional and just return that optional. Okay, so now why I just explained all these things, in a sense I want to create one set. Okay, just uh, here. Okay, so let me take the second set. Okay, yeah, so come here. Okay, so here, so we are here. Okay, so yeah, so I just pasted. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, let me create optional. Okay, optional of type, which type? Person opt. Okay, person opt. Okay, so here person opt optional. Okay, so what I'm going to do, optional dot off. Why off? Okay, so here if you see, I'm just passing this particular one. Okay, yeah, so why I'm considering off, in the sense I am 100% sure. See, this person opt I just now created, right, using the new operator. So this is not null, so that's why I'm just creating using off. Okay, so now I have created this one. So now what I'm going to do, okay, so here, okay, this map method. Okay, um yeah, map method. So in the map method, what I'm going to do here. Okay, so here, see, obviously map method expects a function, right? So function in the sense one input and one output. So this is a input. Okay, so this is a input. Okay, and output is so what I'm going to do, okay, person opt one. Okay, dot get Aadhaar card opt. Okay, so Aadhaar card opt. Okay, dot get. Okay, so yeah, let me keep it in SOP, so that we can see what's happening. Yeah, so let me run this. Yeah, so here if you see, we have got, optional, and inside that one more optional. So why we have got optional and optional of this Aadhaar card opt, right? So here, so just go here, okay, map method. Okay, let me minimize this. Yeah, so here if you see, obviously the flow reaches to this else condition, right? So this else condition. So here optional dot of nullable, okay, optional dot of nullable. So this is one set, optional or nullable. Inside that what happens, okay, we are invoking this apply method, right? So in the, as soon as this apply method gets executes, okay, what happens, okay, the flow reaches here. So the flow reaches here and it will try to execute this piece of code, and immediately it will go here, okay. So here, again we are creating second time, optional dot of nullable of this particular piece, right, other cutoff. So that means what I'm trying to say here is, okay, so obviously it will create one optional, so that optional it will try to pass that optional to here, I mean this optional of nullable. So that's why we are able to see optional of optional other card opt, okay. So let me visualize this, is something like this. See, we have a outer box, okay, that is a outer container. I mean, let's assume optional of person opt, okay. So which contains, age, salary, and Aadhaar card opt, right? So now when you invoke, person card opt dot get Aadhaar card opt, okay, obviously you will get a what happens, I mean, that inner box, right? So that inner box, again that is a one more optional, right? So that's why you are able to see optional of Aadhaar card opt. I hope the point is clear here, okay. So okay, so okay, so now what happens, if I invoke the get method here, get method, okay. So let me run this. Okay, so get method, why the get method? Get method will always fetches the value from the container. Okay, so now this get method, what we are doing, we are invoking a get method from the outer container. Outer container get method means obviously it will return the inner container, right? So you will get optional of Aadhaar card opt, right? So here you see here the same thing you have got. Now you have got only optional of Aadhaar card opt. I hope it is clear. So now I want to show you the one more important method, flat map. Okay. So yeah. So here, yeah, flat map. Okay. Let me remove this. Okay. Let me remove even get also. So let's see what happens. So flat map, straight away it will return the optional of Aadhaar card opt instead of returning the optional of Aadhaar card opt. That's the beauty of a flat map. Okay. So here if you see, now, here we are not using the get method, right? In the case of flat map. So here if you see, in the case of flat map, I didn't use the get method, but even then I have got the optional of Aadhaar card opt, right? But in the case of map, we have used a get method, then only we have got this optional of Aadhaar card opt. Okay. Okay, so here if you see in the case of flat map, okay, so in the case of flat map here, if you see, straight away it is invoking the apply method, okay, and it is returning the optional. So straight by that way you are getting an inner set. But in the case of map, okay, so here it is creating a optional, and inside that you are invoking the apply method, which returns one more optional, right? So I hope it is clear. Okay, so yeah. So, I mean, I have covered all important, methods of this optional class. Okay. So now let me show you the two important, some real-time scenarios which are correlated with this optional class. Okay. Yeah, so for example, so prior to Java 8, we used to have this type of code, right? So let's assume, I have one method, okay. So this method, get result method, okay, I have some string, okay. After that, I have some business logic, and finally, I return that string, okay, which is value 4, okay. So now here, if you see, okay, I just created an object and I invoked that particular method. Now I have got string, okay. So now there are two possibilities, that string can have a valid value or null. Okay, now what I'm doing, okay, I'm just doing this piece of code. If it is not equal to null, I'm just calculating a length. If it is a null, okay, I'm just calculating a length of default word. Okay, by that way I'm just printing. Okay, so I mean, prior to Java 8, we used to do these type of null checks. Now, how we can leverage the knowledge of optional class, to avoid this type of null checks. Okay, so now, let me, in order to utilize the optional class, okay, we need to write, a modified method. Okay, so here if you see, so I'm just modifying, so I'm just changing to something, get optional result. Okay, so now instead of returning a string, okay, so I'm going to return optional dot of nullable. Okay, nullable of this str. Okay, so obviously here also you need to change, right? Optional of this string. Yeah, so that I mean nothing. I just created a optional of this particular string, and I just returned a optional instead of, I mean, I just returned a optional instead of a normal string. That's it. Okay. So here, so here if you see now, okay, yeah. So now instead of invoking the normal one, okay, so this time I'm invoking my newly created method. Okay, obviously, um, so obviously it will create optional, right? Optional of string. Okay, string. I'm just giving some name opt. Okay, so here what I'm going to do. Okay, uh, so I'm writing some sop. Okay, so here opt dot. Okay, so what exactly I'm doing? If it is not equal to null, do so and so. Otherwise, do so and so. Right. So here. Um, you can think of a map method. In the map method, okay, if it is not equal to null, you can do some processing, right? Why? Because it expects a function, right? So which has input and output. So here if you see, so this map method, okay, so here if you see opt dot map map method. Okay, so you can say something like this, s dot length. Okay, s dot length. Okay, uh, dot length. Okay, dot or else. Okay, um, default. Okay, dot length. Okay, so yeah, let me run this. um yeah, so here if you see, oh sorry, I need to run this new class. Okay, so I need to run this. Yeah, so here if you see, I mean, 4 and 4 we have got the same output, right? So why 4 and 4? In the sense, I'm just passing here also 4, and in my previous method also 4. So what I'm trying to say here is, I mean, this much of piece of code we just replace it with a single line. Here you can see this is a single line. Okay, so that's the beauty of optional class. So now, with very minimal lines of code, we can avoid this null pointer exception. So I want to show you one more real-time example. Okay, so here, here if you see, I mean, I just created a, the first set of all three poses, so in which we don't have any optionals. Okay, normal plain poses, address, normal address card. It is not address card opt, it is a normal Aadhaar card. Sorry, after that person. Okay, so now I just created an object of this particular class. Now, I'm just printing, this particular method. So what is there within this method? Okay, so I'm just passing person. So here, prior to Java 8, we used to do these type of null checks. If person is not equal to null, then do so and so. And internally again, I'm checking Aadhaar card. Okay, again, if Aadhaar card is not null, then do so and so. Okay, so again, I'm checking get address or something like this. So finally, if it is not equal to null, I'm just retrieving a value of pin code from your address. Okay, So we used to do these many null checks prior to Java 8. Now how to leverage the knowledge of this optional to avoid these null checks? Okay. So here, so for that, obviously I need to have a second set of posers, right? So as I said sometime before, for the second set address is common, right? So I can utilize the same address even for the second set. Okay, so now just go here. Okay, let me copy this second set. Okay, yeah, so I'm just keeping here that second set. Yeah, so this is a second set. So now, okay, I'm just creating, okay, like how I created just some time before, optional of, okay, person, okay, person of, okay. uh, so here, okay, person opt optional. So here, optional dot, okay, off, okay. So since I'm pretty much sure I'm using the off method, okay, so here person opt, okay, person opt, okay. So now, what I'm going to do here. Okay, let me, where is the object of this particular class? Yeah, so this is the object, right? Okay, so here, this object, okay. So now, get result without optional, right? So I want to write a new method in with optional, okay. So yeah, so with optional, of course, I don't have a method. Okay, let me create a new method. Okay, so in that I'm just passing this person opt optional. Okay, so I'm just asking IntelliJ to create this new method. Okay, see, it has created a new method. Okay, so here, obviously it returns int, right? Why? Because here if you see my old method also returning int, right? So that's why here if you see int, okay, and after that, see, everything is fine. Okay, so now inside that what I'm doing, return, okay, return person at optional. Okay, so here, so just try to understand what we are doing here in earlier, so first I'm checking if the person is not equal to null, and then if it is not equal to null, then I'm trying to fetch a, Aadhaar card opt value within that person reference, right? So that's what we are doing, right? So then, why don't you leverage a, either map or flat map, right? So, here, a person is a optional, within that person, again this Aadhaar card opt is a again optional. Then, if you utilize the map method, you will get optional of Aadhaar card opt, right? So then, uh, I mean, just to suppress this two types of optional, better use flat map. Okay, then straight away you will get optional of Aadhaar card opt, right? So here, that's why what I'm going to do here. Okay, um, yeah, flat map. Okay, flat map. Okay, person, okay, opt. Okay, so here, okay, what I'm doing, person opt, okay, dot get Aadhaar card opt. Okay, so here, so basically what you will get, optional of Aadhaar card opt, right? Now on top of this optional of Aadhaar card opt, okay, inside that now I need to fetch address. So that's what we are doing, right? Once we have got Aadhaar card opt, okay, again I am fetching address, right? So see, yeah, address. So again there is a one more possibility. Again, it address also could be a optional of address, right? So here if you see, um, yeah, so here, if you see this Aadhaar card opt, okay, Aadhaar card opt, here if you see, again it is, when you fetch this particular method, okay, again it will return optional of address. So, so again, we need to use a flat map, otherwise it will return optional of address. Okay, so that's why what I'm going to do here. Okay, so here if you see, once again, okay, so once again I'm using the flat map. Okay, flat map, flat map. So Aadhaar card opt, okay, Aadhaar card opt dot, okay, uh, dot get address, okay, get address. So now you will get optional of address. Okay, once you have a optional of address, so within that now I am interested to get a pin code, right? So this time, there are no two times optional, right? So now you can use the map method. Okay, so map method, okay, so here, address, okay, address, uh, okay, address dot, uh, no, one second, address dot get, no, dot flat map. Okay, let me see once. Okay, get address. Okay, get address dot map. Okay, map. Uh, 1 second. So let me see the reference. Okay, so here, yeah, I guess I'm doing correctly only. So let me copy this. Okay, not sure. I mean, compiler is giving some issue here. Yeah. So here if you see what we have done, okay, so two times I have used a flat map. Okay, so now the second flat map returns a optional of address. So after that, map I have used. Now obviously address dot get pin code. Okay, so now what happens, this address dot get pin code, I mean basically this map returns a optional of pin code. Okay, now if you go to this or else method, okay, this time I mean value is not equal to null. Yes, value is not equal to null. Why? Because just now in the previous step you have got optional of integer, that is optional of pin code. So that's why by that way it will print this particular value. Okay, so here if you see, now let me try to invoke this particular one. Okay, so here let me keep in some SOP just to see the output. Okay, so let me run this. Not sure. I think I need to run this. I mean, that was the output of previous class. Yeah, see, we have got the same output. Okay, so yeah. So here, I mean, this is the key important logic. So here, if you see, if you go to flat map, okay, basically flow reaches here. Okay, now in the flow, basically it will return this optional of this apply method. Okay, so by that way, by that way it will return, uh, it will try to execute this particular piece. Okay, so let's assume, okay, if what happens if I pass null here? Okay, how our code works? Okay, so now what happens, okay, if it is null, okay, it will try to print this default value. But how it will print that default value in the sense, okay, here if you print here, okay, obviously it will print my default value. Okay, so yeah, so here you see it has printed default value, but I would like to explain why it has printed default value. Okay, so here if you see in the case of flat map, okay, so okay, so it will try to return this optional. Okay, optional, and it will try to invoke this apply. Right, up to here we are clear. So in the apply, then the flow reaches here. Okay, then it will try to invoke this. So then the flow goes here. Okay, now optional dot of nullable, now this value is null. Why? Because just now I passed null, right? So then what happens, it will return optional of null. Okay, optional of null, right? So since it is optional of null, okay, then what happens in the next step? Okay, if you go to this flat map of next step, okay, so then in the next step also flow gets executed this one. Okay, so now sorry, in the next step it will go to this flat map. So this time what happens, it will go to this if condition. Why? Because optional of null, right? So this condition will become true and it will return empty. Empty means empty optional. Okay, then what happens, on that, on top of that empty optional, it will invoke the map method. Okay, now again it will return the empty method. Why? Because again this time also condition will become true. So now what happens, now this time you will invoke the or else method on top of that empty optional. Okay, now if you see, the value becomes null, right? Empty optional, so that's why it will print other. So so by that way we have got the default value, this particular value, right? So I hope I mean the concept is clear. Okay, so here if you see, um, so yeah, basically what are the advantages of optional in the sense, I mean we can avoid the null pointer check. We can write a minimal number of minimal number of lines in a very simple and neat manner. Okay, so no more boilerplate code. Okay, so disadvantage in the sense the performance is somewhat low and difficult to debug. Okay. So here, if you see the limitations of optional in the sense, as I said sometime before, optional is not serializable. So just it is not recommended to use for the class fields. So the intended use of optional is mainly as a return type. So better write one more method, and in that one just create optional and return that optional. Okay. So if you still want to use a serialize, then you need to take the help of Jackson library. Okay. So Java 9 editions in the sense, I mean, I already covered. I mean, they just introduce OR method and if present or else method. If present in the sense, in case if it is a valid value, then do so and so. Otherwise, do so and so. So that's what they just introduced. And stream also they just introduced. That means you can invoke the stream method, then you will get a stream of optional classes. Okay. So finally I want to show. Okay, so this is optional class. Okay, now if you go to this package. Okay, package. Yeah, see, we do have a generic optional of any data type, and we have three more optionals: optional double, optional int, optional long. So which are used exclusively for the primitives. So integers, doubles, and longs. Okay. So if your requirement is specific to integers, then you can take the help of these specific classes instead of a generic optional. Okay. So I hope I have covered all the concepts of optional. Yeah, if you like this video, please like and share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.